Hey guys, so this is a vulnerability moment. I felt in my heart for the last 2 weeks to tell my ex that I dated for 2.5 years, 6 years ago, that I cheated on him. As you know, I'm waiting till marriage to have sex, so it wasn't sex, but it was physical. And growing up in a very conservative, like, Baptist church, it's like whatever I went through, I didn't really like tell people about it, especially when I was dating. And I had those friends that were like Christian but still like, I guess, worldly, and I was able to be myself around them because I was like, oh, they're horny too, like I get it, and they get it. And but then in front of like the more conservative people, I felt like I couldn't really be myself or tell the truth. And so there was a bit of fear there. And anyways, so I ended up telling him today, like, what happened, and just telling him how I felt. So basically I said that in the relationship I often felt like he was either distant, like he would disappear for a few days, or controlling when he was with me. He didn't like what I wore. I had to change my clothes. He would say, like, I don't like what you're wearing, go change. He would tell me like he would just like judge me a lot. And I remember one time he got this new car. He's like, I got this frappuccino. He's like, don't spill it. Because he yelled at me, I was even more paranoid. And of course, what did I do? I spilled the frappuccino in his new car. And I just felt, now realizing, looking back, like it was very performance driven and not really like, it was just all about like, don't mess up. And he's like, if you ever like cheat, I will beat you black and blue. And I still remember those words. And so of course, what do? I cheat. I went to Brazil and I met this guy, this Slovenian guy. He was very, very handsome and he gave me attention. And I thought, like, oh my gosh, I feel so crappy about myself in this relationship. And like, here's someone who's giving me attention, who is like seeing me as I am. And like, I just felt kind of like the ugly duckling, because no matter, oh god, like no matter what I did, it wasn't good enough. And no matter what I wore, it was not right. And it was like, okay, like, put on makeup. Like, he would tell me to put on makeup. And like, he would say, like, we're going to my friend's house, we have to, like, you have to look a certain way. And he was so scared of like people's judgment that he would say, like, you should put on makeup. And I just felt like I couldn't really be myself in that relationship, and it lasted like 2.5 years. Honestly, after the first year, I was like, I should have ended it, and I didn't, because of that fear of like lack, that fear of being alone. I was so used to his presence, but it was a very performance-driven relationship, in that, like, I had to be someone that I wasn't, and I slowly changed for him, and I think that's why I needed to get it off my chest, because I actually didn't think about how I cheated on him for like 6 years. And when that did happen, that one instance in Brazil, and I came back, I felt a lot of guilt like every single day. And I prayed about it, and for some reason God was like, don't tell him. And I was like, why? And I just was like, I even went to PIHOP for prayer, and they were like, is he Christian? Like, is he gonna understand forgiveness? And I was like, no, he's probably gonna beat me up. Like, literally, he might like hit me. And so I just ended up breaking up with him. And I also realized this in like many of my friendships, is like I will tell someone something and it's just like immediate judgment, immediate like, oh, you shouldn't have done that. And it's like, I think that's why there was so much fear in my friendships, in my relationships. I did have a few best friends that were very accepting and open and loving. But I'm no longer friends with them. Because I think also like they don't understand like how can I like fall in love so easily? How can I like a guy so easily and then move on? And it's just like, I don't know. It's like I feel like what it is like sometimes there are these like performance driven relationships where it's like I feel like I have to be someone I'm not. And then so I like, once I'm freed of that and I meet someone new, I'm like, oh, I don't have to put up a front. And I think that by like just being honest with this ex of mine, even though of course I knew he was gonna cuss me out, I knew he was gonna, tell me to fuck off, like, and he told me that I was selfish for telling him after 6 years, and everyone had kind of given me the same like advice, but I knew in my heart, and what God was telling me was tell him the truth. So I can control it by saying like, no, 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 I'm just gonna meditate and be like, the past is the past, like bury the dead, whatever. Or I can live in my truth and release that so that I can move on and like live from my heart, live from my truth. And I felt like I also had another instance recently where like this guy that I really liked, he was telling me like, you know, I know you're waiting till marriage to have sex, but you shouldn't get physical with people. And I was just like, he's like, it's very damaging. But like, if God had given me the grace to not have sex till marriage, it's because of his grace, of like, not because of self-will or self-discipline or guilt or anything. It's a desire for my heart to wait. But if I want to get physical with someone, it's because of a desire to be with them, to show love and express love. And I feel like what makes me mad is when people have different standards and boundaries, and then they're telling me not to do something. When people tell me not to do something, I won't listen. Like, it has to come from a place of my personal conviction, not from you telling me what to do. Because I have lived my whole life from a place from my heart, not from a place of guilt or condemnation or logic. I live from my heart, and if I get hurt in the process, that's like God's the one taking care of me. God's the one, his Holy Spirit is the one protecting me, not people. And so what pisses me off is when people don't value the Holy Spirit inside of me, and they're not trusting that God is in me to do what it is that he's called me to. So anyways, I hope that helped you. And if you feel guilt or condemnation in any relationship, just know that like a true person, that person who really loves you, if you tell them the truth, like, it may be hard, but it's like you can't live your life hiding some secret. You can't live your life like living from a place of guilt. The truth will set you free, and it does, and it did. And people may like cuss you out and like tell you to F off, and they may tell you all these things, and they may tell you like you shouldn't have done that, and you're this, and you're a biatch, and you're this. But when you get it off your chest, because none of us are perfect, all of us are imperfect, if we have to carry on like a facade or a face or perform in a relationship or friendship just to be loved, we have to be perfect, that is not love. Like, and I realized that because of my upbringing, like going to church, kind of being this role model and this leader for other people, it was like, that's what happens. That's when like secret addictions come about. Like, you feel like you have to be something you're not. And the weird thing is, so I was with this like Christian guy, right? And then later on, like, I met this other dude and he wasn't Christian and he just did what he wanted. And like, I felt in a weird way like liberated, because I was like, with this Christian guy, I felt like he was guilt tripping me a lot, and like telling me I should do this and I shouldn't do that. And it was just like, I felt this like legalism set in, where like I couldn't do or be or like do what I wanted to do. And I think by telling my ex that I cheated on him and like really getting that off my chest, I felt like it was telling my heart like it's okay to be imperfect. Like, yes, you're not with him anymore, but like, you can't be afraid of people's opinion, judgment, or rejection. Like, you have to just live in your truth and tell the truth, because like, none of us are perfect, and I don't want to live that way anymore, where I'm like trying to be something I'm not, like, yeah. So it's like, it's crazy because there's this like guy that I dated, and like, we were not in an exclusive relationship, and like, I would go on dates with other people and tell him about it. And sometimes I would think like, oh my god, is he gonna like judge me, is he gonna say something? But he never did. And he's like, I totally understand, like, we're not in an exclusive relationship. And like, his love and his understanding like really like helped me to see that like, there are people who are not gonna be mean to you, and that will love you for who you are and what you do even. And like, yeah, it's just like a little kid, like, you spill milk and then you're like just expecting someone to yell at you. That's kind of like how I grew up, with my mom. And because of that, I became very like performance driven, and just like, I would have this like one side of me that was a certain way, and another side where I'm like, oh, I can just be a kid, I can just do whatever I want. But with certain personalities, I felt like I couldn't like be myself. And a lot of those people I felt like I couldn't be myself with were conservative Christians that I grew up with, because their lifestyle was just so different from mine. A lot of them just like met their spouse and then got married, and maybe they did have like their trials and errors of dating, but they never talked about it. So I felt like everyone just had this front of like perfection, like, oh, we're like, we met on eHarmony and now we're married and now we have 3 kids. And but I know that there was a lot of scandal and drama, like, even at the church that I went to. And people, there was a lot of shaming and guilt and things like that. Like, a lot of like gossip, like, oh my god, I can't believe she did that, like that kind of thing. And at the end of the day, it's just like, we're all human, like, we're just trying to find love. So y'all stop judging, right? So um I don't I don't know, yeah. I feel like I just have to keep living in my truth and telling the truth, instead of fearing that like, oh, what are they going to think about me? How are they going to judge me? It's like, no, this is my truth. And like, I feel like if you feel guilt tripped, or you have to live according to other people's standards, like, you're gonna like be miserable. Because I did that for so long, where I mean, it was people pleasing. Like, okay, like, I want you to like me and I want you to approve of me, so I'm gonna like show this part of me that I'm really am not. And like I've just been set free of that, like trying to be something I'm not. And this is me. Like, I've probably been on like a lot of dates in the last year. And even like saying that, people are just like, oh, like you're even going out, like why are you going out, like you might get the virus, or like why are you going to a bar, like that's where you get the virus, or just like saying all kinds of things. And I'm just like, dude, you need to stop. um so anyways, I'm thankful, right, that I was able to do what I did, even though my ex did like cuss me out a little bit through Messenger. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I faced the truth and I feel better. And like, honestly, yeah, I would want someone to tell me, like, even if it like years went by, because I feel like love is healing and love is truth. So when you live in your truth, like you're loving who you are and you're loving other people instead of living this lie. I think the biggest problem with my ex was like he really wanted approval from people. Like he wanted people to see him in a certain light. It was all about people pleasing. Like I remember one time I went to his house and he said, "Oh, I was like," he's like, "Oh, I always have like the best products in my fridge because if someone comes over and opens the fridge, I want to make sure that they know like I eat the best food." And I'm just like, what the hell? I was like that just like stuck in my mind that that's how much he cared about what people thought. And because of that, like I couldn't be myself in that relationship. Like I had to freaking like he'd be like, "Oh, I don't like what you're wearing," because I liked polka dots and like bright colors, and he'd want me to wear jeans and a t-shirt. Like he wanted me to be basically like normal, like a Hollister model or like American Eagle, whatever, Abercrombie style kind of thing. And he's like, "Oh, I think you should dye your hair blonde." And he was saying stuff like, maybe you should get plastic surgery on your boobs. And I'm like, I like my boobs. Just like he was like constantly wanting to change me. And it was like, when you live under that, like you don't feel loved and you feel undervalued and you feel less than. And like, so of course when I went to Brazil and there's this like hot, tall, like 6'2" guy, and he's like the most handsome guy out of the whole group, you're just like, you like me? I feel like an ugly duckling in my relationship, and you actually like me? Like, you think I'm beautiful? And that's when I was like, F it, like, like I'm just gonna go all in, and so I just pray that all of us just find someone that will actually love us for who we are, and like we don't have to be someone we're not, that we don't have to change our clothes, that we don't have to change our hair, that we don't have to put on makeup to please our partners, because that's just ridiculous. Like I don't want to be in any relationship like that anymore. And I still, even as I go on dates and stuff, I still notice that there are certain types of guys that remind me of my ex. And like he's like, not like, for example, I have like all the dating apps. I was on this one dating app, and this guy, like I met up with him. He said he was 40, but then when he showed up, he's like, I'm actually 45. And I was like, what? And he's like, oh, because like people have gone his birthday and tried to like scam him or something. And then like, so like he drove this like Porsche, right? Which is like awesome, right? Because I've never been in a Porsche. But then like when we were talking, I was like, oh my God, like we don't have much in common. And like I had to like initiate a lot of conversation or ask questions. Like with my ex, where like I felt like we didn't have much in common. And I was like, wow, like this is kind of boring. Like, And I'm like, I don't care what car he drives or like how fancy he is or how much money he has, but like if you literally don't enjoy yourself, like I'd rather you be like not have a car. You know what I mean? Like I'd rather you be driving some like Honda Prius or some like even some crappy car. If I can have like fun with you, I can enjoy our conversation. I don't care what car you drive, dude. You know, and it was like um it was like, I don't care how many nice cars you have. Like, if I don't enjoy your company, I don't care. You know what I mean? I don't even care, like, where I live. I can live in this huge-ass house, but not have love, then I'd rather live, like, somewhere small, you know? And that was the thing with my ex, too. Like, he was very, all about, like, money, like, having nice cars, having nice clothes. But, like, I remember one of the last dinners we had, we went to an Italian restaurant, and he had this, like the meal was, like, $100 or something. I still remember, and I was like, oh, this is, like, a nice candlelight dinner where we're doing, like, whatever. And then, like, his mind was completely not there. He was, like, staring off into space. And I'm just thinking, like, I could be at home right now eating McDonald's and watching Netflix, and I would have so much more fun. But imagine being with someone who, like, you don't even feel present. Like, you feel like a ghost, you know? And it's like, you should be with someone who's engaging and, like, who wants to talk to you, who has conversation with you, who values you, who loves you, and who's excited to be there with you. And so hey, I'm just glad, like, I've matured and evolved to this point where I'm like, I want vulnerability. I want you to listen to me, understand me, be present, look me in the eye when you talk, when I talk to you. You're emotionally present. Like, that's so important in a relationship. 'Cause you can have fun all you want, but, like, are you gonna sit down with me and cry with me if I need to express something? And I think a lot of people are not ready for that. And I realize, like, I am ready for that. I am ready for emotional vulnerability. And today was just like a breakthrough for me, because I kept thinking in my mind, like, I really want to tell my ex the truth. I really want to tell him. But there was this guilt of people saying, like, well, that's being selfish. Why don't you just bury the past? Things like that. But I'm like, but you know what? God is telling me to tell the truth after all these years. And the fear was that I would hurt him. And the second fear was that I would get cussed out and that he would say all these mean things about me. And the third thing, the fear was, oh, am I being selfish by telling the truth? And at the end of the day, it's like, I can try to, like, negate all that, or I can speak from my heart. And I spoke from my heart, and I told him how I felt. I told him how I felt controlled. I felt alone in the relationship. I felt unsafe. I didn't feel loved. Well, I didn't say that part. I did feel loved, but, like, I didn't feel loved, because he would disappear, like, for 2-3 days and not tell me where he was. He would, again, tell me to change my clothes, and he wanted a say in everything in my life. And I stopped listening to my heart, and I lost myself in that relationship. And so that's why, like, as I started to date this year, like, God would tell me, like, you need to speak up. Like, you're not happy with what they just said to you, like, say, hey, I'm not cool with that. That hurt me. Or I went on a date with someone, and, like, he went into the ocean. We were at the beach. I was behind him, kind of behind, and he just, like, turned and gazed at this other girl for, like, a long time. And I actually, thank you. I actually like called him out on it later on, because I like in that moment I felt really insecure. So when we got in the car, I was like, hey, I noticed that you were staring at this girl. And he's like, I'm really sorry. You're right, I was checking her out, and I have a problem with that. Like, I have wandering eyes. Like, whenever I'm with someone, like, my eyes wander a lot. And I'm like, it's okay to, like, admire people. I admire people's bodies. I admire their face, like, you know. But if I'm on a date with someone, or if I'm, like, with someone that I like, I'm not gonna be, like, staring at someone's ass for, like, 10 minutes and be like, you know what? Like, I'm gonna just stare at their ass. And then while the girl is, like, literally right behind you. And, oh, you want to be in the video? Black dog to black belt. And so, wave. I don't know. Who? I don't remember. Wave. So, anyways, my kind of takeaway from all of this is, like, don't be afraid to tell the truth in love, and be yourself and speak up. Like, if you're not okay with something, like, talk about it with that person. You know, don't wait till, like, everything's, like, a mess. Because that's what I did. Like, I was so afraid to speak up in that relationship that I didn't honor who I was or love myself in that relationship. And that happened a lot in friendships, too, where I was, like, not okay with something. I really drained myself in a lot of my relationships, like, basically giving of my time, my energy, my money, like, and then not having anything be reciprocated. I had, and it was just hard. It was hard because it was a lot of feeling lack, like, feeling like people didn't really love me and feeling unloved, but I didn't ask for it. You know, I didn't tell people, like, hey, do you mind, like, being the one to drive this time? Because at that time, like, I had a car, and I had a problem saying no, or even, like, asking for rides. So I just did a lot of things out of my own effort, instead of feeling like, you know what, no, I need help. Like, I even had a house church at one point, and I felt drained again. I felt exhausted because like, I had to clean after the meetings, and I didn't ask people to clean. You know what I mean? Like, little things like that, where it's like I didn't speak up for my needs and what I needed. And in that sense, then I felt like I was always in relationship with myself. It wasn't a relationship with people. It was relationship with essentially myself, where I was basically isolated in that friendship because I was giving to them, but they weren't reciprocating to me. So I had to start, like, now, like, in the last few years, I've learned to, you know, ask for help or speak my truth. Oh, I had another situation yesterday, too. And, so, as you know, I passed the lost sheep, and I feel like sometimes people get the wrong idea. So, there was a male driver, and I was like, well, I'm going to get something to eat, right? And he's like, well, maybe we should hang out. Like, you can come to my house and eat. I have food. And I was like, no, I'm okay. And then he's like, oh, I can give you a ride home later on. But he's like, first, I would need to, like, rest, and so we can hang out at my house. And I was like, this is, like, major sketch already. Like, just saying that, like, well, if you really want to give me a ride, I don't need to go to your house, you know. And it was just like it was just like a red flag for me. And I'm like, no, honestly, like, I would just want a ride home. Like, I would be okay with that. I don't need to go to your house, you know. And it's like, I feel like people are very manipulative about their intentions. And like he was saying, like, well, it's like, oh, you can hang out at my house and then I'll give you a ride in the morning. And I'm like, I just met you. Like, I don't want to go to your house. Like, your intentions are basically foul. Like, you know. And so I was like, no. And then it was funny because my friend had texted me like, oh, I'm going to the Abbey. And I was like, that's so crazy because God told me to go there. So we basically arrived at the same time, not planning it. And then I met his friend who just got out of a relationship too. And I was like, that's so crazy, God. Like, we're all in the same boat in a sense. But yeah. So watch out for people who are manipulative, like saying stuff like, oh yeah, well, you can go to my house first. It's like, okay, what's your intention, boo? Like, just be honest. Like, are you trying to get physical with me? Are you trying to get in my pants? Like, be honest, boys. Like, it's like if you want to get to know me, like, take me out on a freaking date, like, to a restaurant. You know what I mean? Like, don't be saying that crap and then what is your intention? And it's just like, it really bugs me when people do that. And I'm just like, no, I just you know what I mean? You have to be honest about your intentions, and I find that really, like, toxic. That's, like, really toxic to me. Like, okay, yeah, if that's your intention and that's your intention, cool, but it's like, that's not my intention. Like, dude. Like, oh my gosh. Yeah, anyways, God bless you. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and make sure to subscribe to my blog, and if you'd like to donate to this ministry, you can do that on my website. God bless. Bye.